there are times when doing this is a lot more difficult than other times. I kind of figured out that the difficulty is exponentially greater when you're talking about things that are very personal and things that most people are reluctant to talk about at all. And I have no idea why I'm drawn to talk about those things, other than the fact that it's part of a self-cleansing kind of operation to help me cope with circumstances that I face often or on a daily basis. And one of those things is functioning while under the influence of substances, chemical compounds in the medications that I take that impair clarity. And we'll talk about that in a minute, but this is Thursday, December the 2nd, 2021, Journal 434, T+977, I think. I know that I should have a little bit more clarity about that, but fortunately I don't. So we're just going to have to deal with that. What I started out writing about was the reality of functioning while under the influence of medication, specifically formulated to reduce, eliminate, or inhibit pain. That's the lead sentence in what I actually physically wrote about. And it's something I'm all too familiar with, unfortunately. I'm not whining, I'm not complaining. It beats the alternative by a long shot. But it's difficult to find a clever way to talk about something most people don't want to talk about. What it's like to look at the world through Vaseline-coated lenses. Now, if you're wondering what that really means, is that it was a trick that was used by photographers, still is actually, in some instances, and particularly in the film industry, in the motion picture industry, before everything was digitized, when they wanted to put a nice, fuzzy, almost translucent film on a shot. And it occurred to me that while I was trying to figure out how to describe what it's like to take drugs that leave you feeling that way, that was probably the best metaphor I could come up with. The reality is that there aren't very many people that unless there's something clinically wrong with you, that really like pain. There aren't people that seek it out. Everybody wants the bad man to go away, even if it means taking potentially dangerous drugs. But they don't really want to talk about it. They don't want to talk about how it makes them feel. They don't want to talk about how it inhibits the way they perform in any way whatsoever. It's just uncomfortable. And realistically, it should be uncomfortable. The problems is what I referred to in the written piece as the hierarchy of evils associated with taking any of the drugs. I mean, if you watch television in the United States, it's really difficult to watch all of the pharmaceutical ads that come on TV, because half of the airtime is used to describe all of the awful things that may happen to you if you take the drug. I mean, some of my favorites are taking a drug that's an antidepressant that's liable to make you want to commit suicide. Quite frankly, I'm just not smart enough to understand that. But I do know that that's a real problem. I do know that that's a real thing, because I was prescribed 3 different pain management drugs to help me cope with the pain from the shingles zoster virus that I've been dealing with for over a year, 14 months to be exact. And two of those drugs, led to real self-endangerment, to thoughts of self-destruction. And the one I'm taking now, while it hasn't resulted in that, still leaves everything just a little bit fuzzy. Because in order to damp down the pain, they've got to damp down. It's more or less indiscriminate. What else gets dampened down? So everything that you put in your body has the potential to affect something, to change something. And that's the case, especially the case with drugs that are powerful, that are designed for one purpose, that actually result in some other kind of chemical reaction. And the examples that I wrote about are really simple. There's a drug, the only FDA-approved drug for primary myelofibrosis, among other myeloid or blood-related cancers, saved my life, quite frankly. And right now I'm taking it prophylactically to prevent the symptoms of chronic graft versus host disease, which can be fatal. I mean, it can be dangerous. It can be difficult. Taking that drug, if you look at the caveats, if you look at the disclaimers on that drug, it spells out very clearly that it's very likely to go ahead and result in an episode of shingles. So you have a choice. The choice is really clear. Either you take the drug and mitigate the symptoms of the disease, or you don't take it and take a chance on dying. Despite whatever other side effects it has. So what do you do when there's no reasonable alternative? There isn't a whole lot you can do. As I said, you take the drug and take a chance on catching shingles. You don't take the drug and take a chance on now GvHD rearing its ugly head and causing some other, damage to your body. The postherpetic neuralgia is still here. The drug I take now is capable of mitigating that somewhat, of dampening down the symptoms associated with that. But there's a cost involved, a certain fuzziness, a certain lack of clarity, which wouldn't be a problem. It would be a problem regardless. It doesn't matter. It's a problem because if you want to express yourself clearly, it makes it more difficult to find the right words. And as I wrote about it in the written blog post, that things that took days take weeks, things that took weeks take months, and it takes a fair amount of perseverance to make anything happen at all. Certainly anything of consequence. And the only thing you can hope for is that ultimately you'll be able to go ahead and stop, taking whatever you're taking. In this case, the drug that I'm taking for the postherpetic neuralgia, you sincerely hope that the postherpetic neuralgia will go away at some point in time. But I think I think it's universal. I think this problem is universal in nature. We all take different things for different reasons. And in many cases, we choose not to think about whatever the consequences are. In my case, the consequences are really obvious, at least to me, because it makes it far more difficult for me to say what I want to say, what I feel I have to say. If for no one else's benefit but my own, to satisfy myself. And the frustration associated with that is real. And I think it's worthy talking about, because if somebody else is reading this and is going through the same thing, you ought to know that you're not alone. And I think that's the most important thing to recognize. So, excuse me. You know, as you're powering through whatever it is that you're trying to get through, what you're trying to accomplish, no matter how long it takes, no matter how hard it is, you want to just keep at it until you're satisfied with the result, because the result is what's worth it, and it's worth the sacrifice. It's worth the effort. It's worth the angst and the anxiety. So if you're going through something like this and you're reading this, please know that you're not alone. If you know somebody else that's going through it, that's taking, you know, medication that's almost guaranteed to change something, then, you know, try and understand what they're going through, because I can assure you that it's as frustrating and maddening for them as it might be for you to deal with. I think it's something to think about, especially at this time of the year, especially around the holidays. In the meantime, that's it for now. Stay well, take care. I'm going to try and write again before the holiday. If I don't, have a spiritually rewarding and meaningful holiday. That's it for now.